Business Saturday.
Welcome to Small Business Saturdays video series with your host and my husband.
And my dad, and I'm not going.
Join the conversation.
Let's talk some business.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is, 1 o'clock here in Central Time. So I guess some of you, it might still be the morning. The East Coast folks, in fact, Emil's going to join us the West Coast folks. Emil's going to join us here in just a moment from the West Coast over there. So good morning, good afternoon, whatever works for you. Hopefully everybody's having a wonderful Saturday so far. I'm really excited here to talk today about the 5 financial numbers you should know. This is going to be a great conversation. You're going to take away a lot of good information from this and just an understanding of, hey, you know what? You're not in this alone. You know, you've got to understand these things, but there's also tools out there to help you. So we're going to get into that today, and I'm really excited to do that and have an opportunity to talk about that. Some of you may or may not know this about me, but my dad was an accountant for 25 years, a CPA. I thought it meant something other than certified public accountant, but that's a different story. He is my dad after all. So, numbers are things people look at me and go, hey, you should really, like it, understand it. And I'm like, no, he was an accountant. I stayed away from that stuff. I went to the marketing side, the other side of things. So I'm really looking forward to taking some notes today too. So that's going to be fun. For those of you that aren't aware, I'm actually getting ready to head off to Louisville next Tuesday, and Louisville, Kentucky for the Skills USA. It's the national competition. If you haven't checked out Skills USA from some of the other things that I've talked about in the past and some of the things we've talked about over at Two Regular Guys, Skills USA is an awesome organization. Mainly working within the high schools, but they also have some post high school kind of programs as well. And basically what's happening over there in Louisville right now is, in fact, they're setting up for it. I've seen all the pictures on Instagram, stuff like that, is these kids have earned their way to the national competition. And I get to judge one of the sublimation competitions. So I'm really excited to do that. SGIA kind of hosts that part of the competition out there. And I've been asked to be a judge. I think this is my 4th year going now. So go over and check out Skills USA, see if there's a way you can support that within your own high school or community there. It's a great program for kids that are coming into our industry and are going to be passionate about it. So really going to be a fun time. I'm taking my wife and my son with me, and we'll probably do a little Instagram along the way. We'll try to post a few things, be silly, have fun, the usual stuff. So, all right. Well, if you are checking in to the live Facebook here, make sure that you are asking your questions, putting in your comments, your feedback. This is all about the community of small business owners that we are, and we are excited to kind of work together, raise the tide for everybody involved. So that's what we're all about here at Small Business Saturdays. One other quick note before we get into talking the meat of the program here is I want to make sure that you guys are checking out the podcast version of this. There's going to be all sorts of stuff, and basically every Saturday morning or so over at smallbusinesssaturdayspodcast.com. That's Small Business Saturdays with an S, podcast.com. You can check out past episodes that become audio versions. That way, if you're not able to catch the live version here on the video side of things, you can listen to them later and listen while you're working out at the gym, listen while you're in the car, listen while you're in the shop printing t-shirts, whatever it is where you can't really pay attention and watch and interact on the comment side here, you can catch all that information later on. So I'd really appreciate you guys checking that out. All right. Well, are we ready to dive in here? I think we are. Let's do it. I'm talking to myself. Weird. All right. All right, guys, here we go. So let me get the right buttons pushed here. I'm going to welcome into the show Emil Abedian, who's with Anchor Bookkeeping and the founder and chief executive officer. And he's also a certified public accountant and partner of a CPA firm, Abedian and Tulane. And I'm probably messing that up completely, but you'll get me in a second here. They're a premier boutique accounting firm in the Los Angeles area, offering business consulting, accounting, and tax services for small to mid-sized business. After working alongside frustrated small business owners for more than a decade, Emil founded Anchor Bookkeeping in 2018. He recognized a need in the market for affordable yet personalized one-on-one bookkeeping services for small business owners. He's a member of the California Society of Certified Public Accountants, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and a board member and chief financial officer of the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce in Los Angeles. He holds a master's degree in business and economics from Uppsala University in Sweden. And welcome into Small Business Saturdays.
Thank you. How you doing, Aaron?
I am doing great. So how many of those names did I mess up first off?
Okay.
I did okay. So it's Uppsala, is that correct?
Uppsala.
Uppsala
Yeah.
in Sweden. Excellent. So
Yeah.
all the way, when you and I got a chance to talk a little bit before we got started here about your travels, moving to Sweden at 2, and been in the LA area for what, about 10 years now? Is that
About
correct?
12, 13 years.
12, 13 years. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's dive into this because I know we've got a lot of stuff that we want to cover here and not a ton of time to do that in. So you've been working with small businesses for more than a decade now. What do you think some of the biggest challenges that you see them face on a day-to-day basis?
That's a good question, Aaron. I've been working with business owners 10, 15 years now.
Yeah.
And across the board, different industries, creative industries, professionals, restaurants, retail, wholesale. The smallest businesses that we work with tend to have the same kind of issues. When they start up a business, they have a great idea, they have a passion for something, whatever industry they're in.
Yeah.
And so they get into the business, to start operating, and pretty soon they realize that, wow, I'm putting in 60, 70, 80, sometimes 90 hours a week into my business, doing things that I never signed up for. Yeah. I'm a great attorney, or I'm a great marketing person, or I'm a great IT person. That's what I want to do. But I start doing a lot of other things. If I'm not a marketing person, like a CPA, I'm doing marketing now that I have no clue about. Or I start doing administration work all of a sudden 10 hours a week, or the IT is breaking down, computers are breaking down, spending hours and hours fixing my computers, or starting hiring employees.
Yeah. 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 Oh no. Uh-oh.
Are we back?
We're back. Sorry about that. I'm not sure
No
what happened. We got the joys of internet technology. Sometimes we just but anyhow. All right. So
that's okay.
You were talking about the fact that we've got to do those things. We can't just let it kind of run. But I'll let you go on from there.
So that's not the problem itself. That's part of the business. You got to deal with all of that things. The problem is that small business owners, at least the ones that we work with, and there's been hundreds of them, if not thousands throughout these years, that they don't realize that you don't have to do all of these things.
Yeah.
You got to make sure it's done. But your marketing, if you're not in the marketing industry, you don't have to do your marketing. Or if you're not an accountant, you don't have to do your bookkeeping yourself. Or you're not an IT person, you don't have to do your technology yourself. And don't get me wrong, I've been there. When I started my business roughly 10 years ago, I was putting in at least 60 hours every week, minimum, up to 80, 90 hours some weeks, and without making a dime. Really, my wife was getting worried at times and saying, what are you doing? You're working 80 hours a week and making $0. Now, what's going on? And that's right. And that's when I really had to think about it and say, okay, what's going on? I got to change things. I can't do all of these things myself.
Yeah.
And within my business, within accounting, for example, all clients that we work with are really great at what they do. They're either, whether if they're in lawyers or in marketing, whatever they do, they're really good at what they do, but they never went to accounting school, or they don't have accounting knowledge. And trying to do those kind of tasks themselves is a waste of time. They try to do it, they don't get it right, and at the end of the day, not that it's not done for tax return purpose, they don't understand the financials, they don't understand the numbers. And that's one of the number one reasons for why more than 50% of small businesses failed within the first 5 years from the start.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest issue that I
Yeah.
see, not only within accounting, with across the board, things that they shouldn't do. They try to do things, and it just takes time away
Yeah.
from their business.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. I think, I've heard that number 50%. I've heard that number sometimes as high as 85%. Some people have said, we'll fail in that first 5 years. And I 100% agree with you. It's like you're trying to bite off more than you can chew. I know you're just getting started and maybe the resources aren't quite there, but there are all sorts of different ways to go about this, these different areas. And I think that's a really good point that you're making there. In fact, my buddy and I that we do the Two Regular Guys podcast together, his joke is that as an entrepreneur, you have the right to work every hour of every day. And I think some people take that a little too much to heart, and you don't have to always do all of that. Stick with what you're passionate about, and look to the people, because guess what? There's other people out there that are passionate about things that you're not, and they can do those things for you way better than you can. And I'm sure probably much more reasonably priced if you value your time. So good
and with
stuff.
Today's business, sorry for interrupting, today's business world there, you could have a marketing team anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
I know freelancers from anywhere in the world doing the work for you, or IT person or virtual assistant. You don't have to actually hire them to do the work for you. You can just hire them for that specific task that you need them for a very reasonable cost, as you just mentioned. So it's a great time to do business in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's not a better time at all, for sure. Like you said, you can have an entire army of people working for you, and you'll never meet them or never see them, and get really good quality work for a very affordable price. I think it's you've got things like Upworks and I kind of try to stay away from Fiverr sometimes, but that you can find the right thing there occasionally. And we're going to talk about some other tools here. So let's talk some numbers here. Let's talk some financial stuff here. And what in your mind, what have you seen out there as far as what are some numbers that we need to be tracking that are going to kind of help keep our guardrails for success here?
Number one thing, first of all, before we dig into the numbers, is you got to be tracking. You have to keep track of your numbers.
Nice.
Whether it's this number or that number, you got to keep track of your numbers. Otherwise, sooner or later, you're going to lose it. And number one that I want to talk about is as easy as your revenue, your sales, your income, revenue, whatever you want to call it. Basically, the proceeds you get from your customers or your clients. You got to know what you're collecting. You would be surprised. You probably think, well, who wouldn't know the revenue? But you would be surprised. You would be surprised how many times I ask this question to our clients, new clients that come in. Well, what's your revenue? What are we looking at approximately? You don't have to give me exact number, but they don't know. I have no clue, they will tell me. And that's the wrong answer. No clue is the wrong answer.
Do you have any thoughts on why that might be? Is it just because it's coming in from different places, or just they just really aren't paying attention to it?
Because they're not keeping track. Simply they're not keeping track. They know how much money they have in the bank because that's what they go in every morning or every week just to see if they can cut any checks or anything. But they don't keep track. They don't know where it came from. It might be bank loan. It might be revenue. It might be their own money they put into the business.
Wow.
Obviously, putting in your money is not revenue, so they have no clue.
Oh, wow.
Not everyone, obviously.
But that's interesting.
Across the board, they don't know what the revenue is. That's number one. You gotta know how much revenue you collect from your clients or customers.
Okay.
Second thing is your gross profit. So if you sell products, let's say if you sell this pen, you buy it for $1, you sell it for $2, so you have $1 margin there. So it's a 50% gross margin. You got to know what your margins are. Because if you buy this for $1 and sell it for $1, you have zero margins. There's no point selling this product.
Nice.
You better move on to the next product. Why is that important? It's maybe not important if you sell one or two products because it's easy to keep track of it. But as you keep on growing your inventory and sell different kind of items, you might actually be losing on certain products that you sell that you're not aware of. So you have to keep track of your revenue and your cost of goods sold, which is the cost of this pen, which brings you down to the gross profit margin.
Okay.
In this case, it's a 50%. It's excellent. It's great.
Yeah.
But what if you still start selling thousands, 2,000, and your gross margin rate goes down? Then we have a problem. That That shouldn't happen. Gross margin should go up actually, and it actually happens. It happens.
Yeah.
They miscalculations and they don't sell the right items, so they actually lose on the products. You got to keep track of your gross profit. Very important for businesses that sell items, products.
Gotcha. Okay.
The next thing would be monthly expenses. I know we said five items, but
yeah,
probably a little bit more than five. You got to excuse
Okay.
me because they're all going hand in hand.
No, it's all good.
But,
bring as many as you can bring me. That's all good.
So monthly operating expenses. What are operating expenses? Your rent, your employees, your advertising, your travel, meals, utilities, telephone. These are all your operating expenses.
Okay.
And you got to keep track of that. Why is that important? Because if your employees' costs keep on growing from month to month, but your revenue is still the same, you got a problem.
Yeah.
Why you're paying your employees so much more when you don't make more money? It might be some issues, might be some inefficiencies in the business. There might be some problems that you should solve.
Yeah.
And so any kind of operating expenses should be tracked, obviously, but the ones that are more important, in my opinion, is employees costs, because in the service-based industries, employee is one of the biggest expenses for your business. So you want to make sure you track that. Your advertising. Now, if you spend $1,000 on advertising and generate, let's say, $10,000 revenue, okay. But now if you increase your advertising, spend $2,000, technically your revenue should go up to $20,000.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, just an example. I don't know exactly. I'm not in the marketing industry.
That's a perfect example.
But if it doesn't increase to $20,000, well, why is that? So you got to talk to your marketing team. Say, okay, we spend double the money, but we don't double our revenue. We need to know why this is happening. Yeah. So there's certain items you got to keep track more than others. Wages, advertising, utilities in certain businesses, where they have a lot of in manufacturing businesses, for example, where the utility cost is very high. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure you track that regularly to make sure the percentage are matching. So, and you don't only want to do it monthly basis. You want to compare that from month to month. So you want to see it from every month, from January, February, March, April, May. Just line it up and see how it keeps growing or reducing, to be able to analyze your numbers, to be able to make the wise decisions for your business, to be able to take it to the next level with accurate data and analysis.
Okay. All right. Great.
Fourth one is net profit. Obviously, yes, you would say net profit. Who doesn't know how much money they make? Again, wrong. There's so many people out there who have no clue about how much money they make. Before Anchor Bookkeeping was created, they sometimes brought their shoebox to us with receipts or just a handwritten list with expenses. And I just asked them, okay, how much money do you make? Well, I don't know. You do the work. I have no clue. I can do the work. That's fine. That's not a problem. But the problem is that these numbers are for last year. We're in March, April of the following year. And you haven't looked at your numbers. So you don't have no clue about what numbers you did last year, which is an issue. How did you make your decision? How did you decide to hire or fire? Or how did you decide to take on a new client or not? So you didn't have that base. You didn't have that information. I would think those decisions were made based on guessing if you don't have those numbers. So you need to know your profit and loss. So all these first four items that I just discussed could be found in the profit and loss statement.
Okay.
So these are all in the profit and loss statement that you need to ask your accountant, CPA, bookkeeper, whoever, to provide it to you so you can analyze it, and hopefully they want to sit down and do that together so they can explain exactly what's going on. I don't expect my clients to know these numbers, or when we provide it to them, they probably don't understand it anyway. That's why we're here. That's why we want to talk to them. That's why we want to explain these numbers to them in detail so they exactly understand why these numbers increased or why that reduced, so they can make the decisions based on that.
Nice. Okay.
The fifth one is the asset and liabilities, which could be found on the balance sheet report. And the balance sheet is basically a snapshot of your financial situation at any given time. Let's say as of end of December 31st, 2018 or 19, you pull up a balance sheet where you see exactly how much asset you have in the bank, inventory, accounts receivable, other assets. And on the other side of the balance sheet, you see how much liabilities you have. You might have $100,000 or $50,000 asset, but if you have 200,000 liabilities, the health of the company is not that good. So you want to monitor that part also, even though balance sheet is not directly related to the result or the profit of the income, but that shows the health of the company. So you got to look at those reports combined to be able to make decisions on your business and your decisions on how to develop and take your business to the next level.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting that you're saying, this is about the tracking and making good decisions within your business. And because I've actually heard some small businesses that I've worked with kind of say, yeah, I don't really monitor my finances that closely because it just makes me feel bad that I'm failing or that, I'm not quite there yet or something like that. It's like, hold on a second. This is not about beating yourself up and saying you're failing or succeeding. This is your kind of information to say, you know what, that maybe wasn't the best decision that I could have made. Let's do it differently this next time. But if they don't have this information, they just keep doing the same bad decision over and over again. Yeah. And so I'm sure you've seen that too, where people just kind of want to bury their head in the sand a little bit. And unfortunately, that kind of ends up being that 50 to 85% of them that just don't quite make it. So, yeah.
That's interesting you brought it up. Shame is number one reason why they don't want to do it. Nice. Obviously time and all that, they don't have time or they don't think they can, but shame, they just dig it up. If I don't look at it, I don't know about it, probably that the problem doesn't exist. Unfortunately, that's not how it is. The problem is still there. So you better look at it. Yeah. So don't feel shame. There's a lot of business owners in your situation.
Absolutely.
That need the help. So get the help.
Get the help. Yeah, I would venture to say most of them are probably in your same situation or were in your same situation at some point. And, they've got to partner up with a good accountant, bookkeeper like yourself and be able to have those conversations. You guys aren't there to beat them up. You're there as a partner to help them because the more they succeed, the more you're going to succeed. And I think people miss that point sometimes. So good stuff. Well, Emil, can we dive into these? You gave us a good rundown. We talked about some of the things here. Obviously, we talked about revenue and the proceeds as number one there. Number two, you had gross profit. And I think I'd love to have you kind of maybe explain that a little bit more for folks when you're talking. So you gave us the analogy of the pen, which is perfect. You've got you're selling it for $2 and you've got $1 worth of cost in that pen. But are there some other things? Let's say you spent $1 for that pen, but you had to have it shipped from the manufacturer. I mean, what are all the other parts and pieces of gross profit that people need to be looking at?
Good question there. Yeah, I just simplified the gross profit.
Sure.
The cost of the pen, but there's a lot of other things other than the cost of the pen that goes into the gross cost of goods sold and the gross margin.
Okay.
The shipment, obviously if you don't make the pen at your warehouse, the pen comes from somewhere, from the warehouse. The cost of the shipment, the cost for you to ship it to your client is part of the cost of goods sold.
Okay.
So anything directly related to the sales of this pen would go into the gross profit margin calculation.
Okay. And then I had one other question about that kind of area, because you had mentioned, we're talking about people that are making stuff, and a lot of the folks that are tuning into this are makers of things. They're making shirts, they're making coffee mugs, they're making those kinds of things. But we do also work with a few kind of service folks. Is there kind of also a bit of a gross profit kind of model for people that are doing service, or is it?
It's not as common because obviously you don't sell products, so you don't have a cost of goods sold.
Okay.
But what we sometimes do for service-based industries that have direct correlation with the services they sell. Let's say they have outside labor. You're a marketing person who outsource all of your work to whatever company that you use. So you have direct outside services, outside labor to provide the services. That could be equivalent to the cost of goods service or whatever you want. It's not cost of goods sold, but it's cost of service. And those situations we do use those calculations to see, okay, you brought in $100,000 revenue. Out of that $100,000, $50,000 went to your contractors. So you only kept $50,000 for your operating expenses. So that works exactly the same way for service industries. It's not as usual to keep track of it the same way for product businesses. But yes, to answer your question, service-based industry will do that too.
Nice. Okay. All right. Great. Well, thank you for answering that for me. All right. Well, let's keep moving down here. Let's talk number 3, the monthly operating expenses. So you talked about a couple of examples there where, again, it goes back to, I think, to my point about the fact that we just need to be tracking this. We're not giving this information to say, bad business owner, you're screwing this up. This is hey, employees, your salaries went up, our production did not. How can we get to those kinds of things? Are there some other things out there? You mentioned employees. You mentioned the advertising budget. Are there other areas like that where we just need to be tracking?
Utilities, for example, in the manufacturing businesses.
Okay.
That's what I see a lot of times. They have their utility cost is huge, at least here in the Southern California area. So that's another thing. If you start hiring employees and give them credit card for their reimbursement card, you want to monitor the travel, the meals. The employees are using your card for business trips and all that. Why is your travel expenses increasing so much where you don't do much more than before?
Yeah.
Or so there it's not only for accounting and tax purpose to keep track of this, it's for your own business and for your efficiency purpose also, to see how can you be more profitable. Every single couple of percentage that you can increase in your bottom line, that could increase a lot of money to your bank account. So you want to make sure you don't lose and you don't waste money by not keeping track and monitoring your numbers.
Okay. All right. Well, that's really good information. Perfect. For those of you that are watching along here and following along live, make sure that you're posting your questions and comments that you have for Emil here, because we'll get to those as we go through that. So I don't want to be the one dominating the questions here. All right. Well, let's then talk about some net profit. So we talked about gross profit. And I think sometimes people get that a little bit confused. But within the net profit, what does that look like? What's I guess my question is, why is that important to track separately from your gross profit?
That's a good one. So the gross profit is related to your products only. So
okay.
Or the service, or it's on the top of the profit and loss statement. But after that, you have your operating expenses. So
gotcha.
We discussed about the operating expenses, you got to keep track of it. And if you don't monitor that, if you waste money on operating expenses, even though your gross margin is really great, you have 50, 60, 70% gross margin on your products. But if you waste money on your operating expenses, if you pay more rent than you have to for your kind of business, or if you pay more to your employees than you really have to, and based on what they do, or all these expenses, then your net profit is going down. And net profit is basically what you keep at the end of the year. That's your money as the owner of the business. The net profit goes into your pocket. Simplified model. There are some items that takes away from it, but just to keep it simple, net profit is what you will keep. So you want to make sure as your net profit amount is as high as possible, and that's calculated by all the other things that we discussed: your revenue, your cost of goods sold, your gross margin, your operating expenses. So that's why I want to talk about all of these, because it goes hand in hand. It's
Gotcha.
all related, and bring you down to the net profit. And it's a good question that clients or businesses, they usually don't understand the difference between net and gross profit. The net is the bottom line, absolutely last line of your profit and loss statement, where you see how much the business made for that period, per year, per quarter, whatever period we're looking at.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. And then you talked to us about assets and liabilities. So you're kind of talking about, okay, we've got, 100,000 here in assets, but maybe you've got liabilities of 200,000. So you got to get that better aligned. What are some common liabilities that people would have on that side of that statement?
Bank loans. You start a business. Most of us who start a business don't have the capital to put into the business themselves. So we got to get a bank loan to buy equipment, furniture, whatever we need for our business. So you get a line of credit or a bank loan to get started. And as you mentioned, if you have $50,000 in the bank and the bank account as an asset, you have $200,000 in the liabilities, obviously it's not in balance. So you don't have enough money to pay for your liabilities. That's not necessarily a problem. Don't get me wrong. You might be generating profit throughout the year where you can slowly pay off that debt and bring it down. But you got to monitor it. You got to make sure you understand it just because you have 50,000 in the bank. Wow, I'm making 50,000. You know, I can take it out and I'm going on vacation or whatever you want to do. No, slow down.
Yeah, you got to be able to service that liability still. So.
Exactly. What's your monthly payment to the bank for your loan? Okay, calculate that. Let's say it's for 200,000, it's $3,000 per month. Okay, we have whatever 6 or 8 or 10 months cushion to pay our liability down. So you got to monitor it. Not necessarily that a problem. It doesn't have to be an issue, but monitor. Make sure you know what's going on. That's my key there.
Nice. Okay. Well, those are 5 great tools, 5 great things that we definitely need to keep an eye on, and like you said, monitor, track, be able to just make better decisions for our business is really what it boils down to, from what I'm getting and how I agree with this here. So I guess another quick question for you. Of these 5 things, is there anything, I mean, do they all just kind of work hand in hand, or are there certain things that you would say, hey, you really have to stay on top of this one?
Revenue. Okay. You got to know your revenue, okay, and your operating expenses, because the revenue is not directly in your hands. You can't control it. Obviously, the more advertising and the more you work on it, you can increase it. But the operating expenses is more in your hand.
Yeah.
You could scale down. You could go to a lower rent location, or you could perhaps, even though it's not preferred, you can perhaps lay off some people, or you could perhaps be careful with the utilities, or spend less on your internet. But you have control over the operating expenses, which you need to monitor and make sure you control it. Revenue, to be able to compare that to your operating expenses. Those 2 are your main things that you want to keep track of. If I have to tell you only 2 of them, even though all 5 are as important, but revenue and operating expenses, because operating expenses more in your hand, you can control that more than the others.
Perfect. So you got 2 nice bookends to these things, is what it seems like. If you're monitoring your revenue, you're monitoring your operating expenses, that gets you started, but take care of the rest of those 3 too, because that also then helps you make better business decisions.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is, to make smart decisions, to be able to take your business from where it is today to where you want it to be. Not because it's wrong, and not because someone want to blame you for it, just because you want to do better. That's the reason.
We're all in this for success, people. So that's right. Absolutely. That's right. All right. Well, we've kind of just touched a little bit on Anchor Bookkeeping, but I want to talk a little bit more about this. Not only was I super excited to be able to kind of get all this great information and tips from you, but I think this service is really a valuable service for small businesses that I love so much. Tell us about that. What need did you see unfilled that kind of made you start Anchor Bookkeeping?
As I mentioned, I've been working with this small businesses for close to 15 years, and seeing the problems, seeing the issues, frustrations they're going through daily basis. And I still see that. And I want to do something about it. I wanted to help the small business owners. Obviously, one person cannot change the entire business world, but at least within my profession, within whatever I know best, I wanted to do something. I want to create a solution where even the smallest businesses, 100,000, 50,000, 200,000 revenue clients annually, could take advantage of the same benefits that the bigger clients are getting from their CPA on regular basis. The consultation, the data they need for their financial statements. Their banks ask for financial statements sometimes where the smallest business don't have a clue about it. So they can't give them financial statement because they don't have it. Yeah. Or when it comes to tax time, their CPA asks for their financial statement, they don't have it. So I want to create, the main thing here, to create a solution to help the smallest businesses to solve at least one problem of the big picture problem here.
Yeah.
That was the main problem. And with my estimate, with my experience, close to 80% of businesses that came to us for tax return preparation purpose prior to Anchor Bookkeeping either didn't have financial statements, they just came to us with a shoebox, or their financial statements were in horrible shape. It didn't make sense. We could not file tax return based on the financial statement they provided to us. So what happened? We had to put them on extension and clean it up after the tax season and file their tax return, which obviously created a lot of frustration. If they had a bookkeeper who did the job poorly, they were frustrated because, I paid this much to the bookkeeper. It's done. Why are you telling me that it's not done? or if they try to do it themselves with different online bookkeeping softwares. Obviously, yes, the bookkeeping softwares all out there are pulling in the data for you, but you still have to do the work. You still have to understand accounting to be able to do the right work and get the data you need from it. So my estimate is close to 80% of those were just horrible shape.
Wow.
And to solve this problem, to reduce the frustration between the client and us, the tension between us, that's when the Anchor Bookkeeping was born, sometimes in mid to end 2018 last year.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. So tell us a little bit more about Anchor then. What's kind of what sets it apart? What's it all about? I'm actually going to put up the website on, you can see it there at the bottom of the screen there. It's anchorbookkeeping.com is what you want to go check out. But I also am going to pop up the screen here and see if we can make it look a little bit better. There we go. So tell us a little bit about the services that Anchor provides.
Right. So it's exactly what it is. It's a service. So it's a bookkeeping service.
Okay.
That's important to note here. It's not a software. So it's nothing that you subscribe to when you got to do the work yourself and got to install it or whatever. That's not it. It's a bookkeeping solution service for smallest businesses out there. Anywhere from zero revenue, because if you have a corporation, LLC, you still have to file a tax return. You still have to keep track of your expenses. So smallest businesses, a couple of $100,000 typically in revenue, where we simplify the bookkeeping process for the small businesses with the help of the technology. So we're not a software company, but we utilize the technology to simplify the process. So why did we do it the way we do it right now is, younger entrepreneurs, they don't want to talk to us anymore. They just want to make sure they get what they need, they understand what's out there. But I realized that the younger business owners, 25 to 35 years old, they don't want to talk to us. Even if I call them, they don't respond. They just text me back. So, which is weird, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the world we live in now.
But so we wanted to create, on top of the regular bookkeeping service that we provide to our clients, which we simplified in a way where with a simple 15-20-minute onboarding process with our bookkeepers, where you get your own dedicated bookkeepers. You don't have a person outside our office. It's not outsourced or anything. It's a bookkeeper vetted by CPAs. I'm a CPA myself, so all these bookkeepers go through me. So we look at it and we review all these financial statements also. So going back there, 15-20 minutes onboarding process, you create a login on our website, anchorbookkeeping.com, and through your own login, connect to your bank, directly to your bank in a secure way. One time you enter your username and password with your bank's credentials without us seeing that. It's a very secure way of doing that. And we'll thereafter download your transactions, check copies, statements, bank and credit card statements into our system, where we on monthly basis do your bookkeeping and upload the financial statements, profit and loss, balance sheet, but also general ledger that we didn't discuss earlier here. A general ledger report is basically itemized of all your transactions for that period. So item by item. So in the profit and loss and the balance sheet, you will see the total amount. So let's say employees, that's a total for that period, $100,000.
Yeah.
But in a general ledger, you will see exactly what that $100,000 is coming from. And so that's more for your CPA for end of the year. So when you provide it to them, they will see exactly how the bookkeeping is done to not confuse them. And the way we do the bookkeeping for Anchor Bookkeeping is the exact same way we want our financial statements for our CPA firm. Okay. So we provide the same kind of level of service for bookkeeping. So when it goes to our clients, CPA, tax preparer, they just have to plug in into their tax software, basically. They don't have to make any adjustment. It's all clean, nice way. When it comes to us, it's 100%. We don't change anything. If they would want to change, if they want to reclassify something, let's say they spent $100 or $200 on Amazon, well, that was not really office expense. That was more of, I don't know, books or whatever. But that's fine. We do that. We communicate with the client and reclassify for them and give it back to them.
Wow.
So they have that option to do that, obviously. So that's the bookkeeping part of it. And going back to the younger entrepreneurs, is that we built in a chat function with the client and the bookkeeper directly. And the chat is not just a general chat that goes to customer support, or directly with their own bookkeeper.
Wow.
So whenever you as a client have a question, you just message us, chat within the software, text, or just pick up the phone and talk directly to your bookkeeper. Hey, Emil, I have this question. How did you get to this number? Or I don't understand why the revenue is this much or not that much. And we'll go over the numbers with you and explain to you in detail, so you understand that. If you don't want to talk to us, that's fine. Text within the dashboard, and chat function works perfect also, which is actually, looking at our clientele, probably more than 50-60% our clients communicate with us through the chat and text function rather than calling us. I guess that's the new way of doing business.
Yeah, I know it. It is pretty interesting. I got 17 places to check for a message that could. Yeah. Anyhow, that's a different story. Awesome. Cool. So how much does a service like this cost approximately?
So it starts at $149 monthly. Whoa. So it's a flat fee.
Cheap.
You don't do.
Yeah,
I would say it's cheap.
Reasonable.
I would say it's cheap. I would say it's cheap. It's $149 for clients up to. We have very simple cost structure. So if you make up to $200,000 revenue per year, it's $149. From $200,000 to $500,000 revenue, the cost goes up to $199, and from $500,000 revenue up to $1 million, it's $299. If you're more than $1 million revenue client, I would say Anchor Bookkeeping is not a good fit for you.
Okay.
You would need more involvement throughout the year.
Sure.
You need to sit down with your accountant, CPA,
yeah.
Not only over the phone or anything. But up to $1 million, and most of our clients are anywhere between $100,000 to $300,000 clients, where they fall between $149 and $199 per month. It's flat fee. You can call, chat, text anytime you want with us. We don't keep track of the hours, and you know exactly what you get for the money. There's no games played, and that's how we do it. And we don't nickel and dime. You know, if you go over 200 and 1,000, 200, we don't increase it to that.
No. You're not there to beat them. Okay, well,
we're building relationships with our clients, and we want to make sure they're successful, because if they are, we'll be successful too. So that's our goal.
Nice. Wow. I still am just flabbergasted by how reasonable that price is. I mean, this is bookkeeping. This is not, this is, wow.
And just to tell you how we were able to reduce the cost. In our CPA firm, we can't do that because it's a different business model. But the reason we're able to do it at $149 for Anchor Bookkeeping is because of this direct contact with the bank. So we don't have to bug the client to send us the financials, the bank statements, credit card statement, receipts, check copies. We get that directly. So we save so much time by getting that automatically. That makes it available, and that makes it possible for us to reduce our costs. We don't waste time going back and forth. We get the information, we do it, we give it back to client, we communicate if needed.
Wow, that's really awesome. Cool. Well, everybody, make sure that you're over there checking that out. I just noticed there was actually pricing on the website. So, and you've got a free trial. So you guys are
free trial, 1 month free trial. You don't even have to give us your credit card information. Just sign up, connect your bank. We do 1 month of bookkeeping, upload your financials. It's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. If you like it, you just sign up. If you don't, you know what? Thank you for the service. I take my financials with me. I'm out of here.
Wow. That's fantastic. So, I mean, really, you've got nothing to lose. So just get over there, get signed up. Anchorbookkeeping.com is where you want to go check that out. And my wife's actually tuned in. She was making a comment on there. So, honey, we need to go do this when we get home. Okay. All right. Well, you've given us a ton of great information, tons of tips, but I always like to try to squeeze that one last little bit out. Can you give us one more tip, one more thing that small businesses can start doing today that's going to help them better master their finances? Number one thing,
know your numbers. As I mentioned, more than 50% of businesses fail within the 5 year. I know 85, 75, there are some other numbers out there, but within the 5 year, at least 50% of businesses fail. And the main reason is because they don't know their numbers. Make sure you get your numbers. You look at them monthly or at least quarterly basis. You don't have to spend hours and hours. You just need 15, 20 minutes monthly or quarterly to review your numbers so you know it, to make your decisions based on financial history and not by guessing. You don't want to guess into the future. You want to know where you were to make the smart decisions to take your business to where it's going. So know your numbers, please know your numbers. That's my number one advice to all small business owners.
That's fantastic. That is a great piece of advice, everybody. That, you know, and again, me being a person that I never really enjoyed that side of business that much. Yeah, like I said, I let my dad handle that stuff, but you have to know to be able to make the decision. So again, a service like Anchor here, you know, working with you, that's the way to go, to know the numbers to be able to make the decisions. It's not to know the numbers for shame or any of those other things. It's to know the numbers to make good decisions about bettering your business. So that's a fantastic point. Awesome. Well, anything else before I let you get back to your Saturday here?
Unless you guys have any questions, listeners have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer anything there.
Okay. All right. I have not seen a whole lot of questions. People were pretty satisfied. You were very detailed and gave us a ton of great stuff. I've got a notebook full here, so I'm looking forward to digesting all of that. And
And if there's any questions, you know, go into anchorbookkeeping.com, get our number, just call us. We have bookkeepers. I myself, I'm more than happy to jump on the call, explain the process, explain anything accounting and tax related, bookkeeping related, just to get you off the ground. You don't have to use Anchor Bookkeeping. If you have questions, just call us. We're more than happy to help you.
Nice. And it looks like people can find you guys all over social media as well. Anchor Books on Facebook, Anchor_books on Twitter, Anchor Bookkeeping on LinkedIn. You guys are everywhere. Anchor Bookkeeping _ on Instagram. So follow you guys there and check it all out. And Emil, wow, my phone decided it wanted to talk to me all of a sudden. when you get your phone set up to say computer, you get yourself in trouble. All right. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Let's keep in touch, because I'd love to keep this communication open. I think you could be really helpful to the small businesses out there. And boy, I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you for having me. Have a great Saturday.
You too. Awesome, man. That was fun. You know, who knew that numbers could be so much fun? I had a blast. I learned a ton. Like I said, I've got a notebook full of information here. So again, make sure you get over to anchorbookkeeping.com and check them out, and tell them you heard about them from Aaron Montgomery or Small Business Saturdays. Either one will do. And good. Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, we went into overtime because there was so much good information there. So I'm going to just jump right out of here and then shut it down. Off to Fulton, Missouri to go spend time with Papa. All right, guys, have yourself a great Saturday, and we will talk to you next Saturday. Actually, I'm going to be coming to you from Chicago the Sunday, the 30th. My wife and I are going to be attending a seminar by Jack Canfield called One Day to Greatness. So I think next Saturday is going to be kind of a quick, let's talk about what's going to happen, what I hope to learn out of that. And you tell me what questions I need to ask of Jack Canfield, and I will bring them back to you. So, all right, guys, have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.